Hey you, welcome back to Mild Moodcast, where we hold space for all versions of you, even the ones you might have outgrown. Today's episode is tender, and it's one I've lived through more than once, and maybe you have too. It's about the kind of connection that feels like forever until it isn't. The kind of season that shapes you and then disappears. The kind of love or friendship or moment that doesn't last, but still leaves a mark that never really fades. Let's talk about the relationships and experiences that weren't meant to go the distance, but were absolutely meant to teach you something. Today's episode, as you've seen, is called It Wasn't Meant to Last, but it was meant to teach. Welcome to Mild Moodcast, a podcast meant to explore mental health through the lens of another human hanging on by a thread. I'm Bianca, a registered mental health counselor intern, soon to be LMHC, here to chat about the topics we don't get enough of. So grab your headphones and let's dive into the crazy world of mental health. It's going to be a wild ride. Okay, now let's go there. As always, while my podcast is meant to spark reflection and curiosity, it is not a replacement for therapy. If you're navigating heavy emotions or challenges, please reach out to a professional. Therapy is a safe space to process and grow. We know that not everything is supposed to last forever. But let me say that again. Not everything is supposed to last forever. But that doesn't mean it wasn't real. That doesn't mean you were foolish for believing in it. That doesn't mean it didn't matter. Sometimes we treat the ending as an eraser, as if the good memories lose their color just because the story changed. But the truth is, there are connections that were only meant to exist for a chapter and still manage to rewrite part of your soul. And it's funny because I'm the type of person that says people into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, and I mean that. And I know it can feel like a failure when something ends, especially if you gave it your all, especially if it lit you up at one point, and especially if your heart was all in. But maybe it served a purpose. It served its purpose. Maybe its ending was the very thing that created the space for your next level. Maybe it was the fire, but you were the one doing the transforming. There are people who come into our lives and feel like soul recognition. Like, you know me, and I don't even know why I know you. They get you in ways others don't. They bring out parts of you that were buried or barely breathing. Sometimes it's exciting. Sometimes it's chaotic. And sometimes it's soft in a way you didn't know you needed. But they weren't meant to stay. They were meant to wake something up, to shake something loose, to reflect something back to you that you needed to see, even if it was uncomfortable. I've had those people, the ones who felt like a mirror I didn't know I needed. And looking back, it wasn't that they were perfect. It was that something in me recognized something in them. And that recognition created movement, growth, insight. I think back to my most recent relationship, and when we first got together, the only relationships I knew were toxic. So there was a lot of unlearning that I had to do in order to make it work. And not unlearning, I use unlearning freely because that's just, a buzzword, right? But I had to relearn healthy habits. And I think I've said this before, probably a lot of episodes ago, but it was just the losing the urge to check another person's phone, learning to trust someone, that what they said they meant, not taking out all of your anger on a person who is supposed to be your teammate, your actual partner, as opposed to your enemy. I had to rise to the version that I became in that relationship. Because if I would have kept those same behaviors, the relationship would have crashed and burned. If I never learned how to trust, if I never learned how to speak up. And don't get me wrong, I would tell you if I didn't like something, but I didn't tell you very nicely. I had to learn that. Something in that relationship woke me up. It made me want to be the best version of myself so that I could maintain it. And I'm so grateful for that. I don't look back with true sadness. Of course, anything that ends, you're going to feel sad, right? Like, we're people. But I look back and I see how much growing I got to do because of that relationship. So, it wasn't that when we got into these relationships with people, we weren't naive. We weren't stupid. We weren't too much. We were willing. Willing to love. Willing to show up. Willing to believe in something. And that willingness is not something to regret. If anything, it's something to honor. Even if it didn't end the way that you hoped. And I say that especially because maybe at some point in that relationship you realized that you were backtracking. Maybe you realized that you didn't have all of the tools that you needed or thought you had to let it continue. And that's why this conversation is so important, because it isn't about what you should have had. It's about what you take from it. What did you learn? What do you want to go and do better? Because you need to rise to whatever version of you is coming next. Like, yeah, we do stupid shit. We are dealt certain cards. And we do the best that we can with those cards. Maybe you had people who never really allowed you to feel safe when you wanted to work on those parts of you. So you never got to mend them. You started to learn and then you halted because you had no other choice. If you notice, a lot of the things that I talk about are around forgiving you and learning how to take what you have and blossom with it. This isn't about judging the younger version of yourself. It's not about what you coulda, shoulda, woulda, but didn't. It's about who you're going to be from here forward. What opportunities you may not have had or weren't clear to you then may be more clear to you now. So I want you to honor that time, even if it didn't end the way that you had hoped. People love to talk about lessons like they're clean and cute and clear cut. But the truth is, some of the deepest lessons come wrapped in confusion, in heartbreak, in the mess of, I don't know what that was, but I know I'm not the same after it. And that's valid. It's real, and that is genuine growth. Some people show us what love can feel like. Not because they're a forever person, but because they were the doorway. They are the reminder that we're capable of feeling deeply because maybe you didn't even believe that you could. They're the reminder that we can be soft again, that we can trust our gut, that we do deserve to be seen. And then sometimes they're the reason we stop betraying ourselves. They are the one that made us realize we were settling, or shape-shifting, or painting red flags green, as I love to say. So no, I don't think that any relationship that we get into is a waste. I think that some of them are turning points, or wake-up calls, or your soul trying to tell you, pay attention. I kind of want to hold space for the ending of our relationship without shame, because I think some people need to hear this. You're allowed to miss someone and still know they weren't meant to stay. You're allowed to grieve what could have been without wanting it back. You're allowed to feel peace about the goodbye and still feel something when you hear their name. That is the duality of healing. And maybe the most powerful thing you can do is stop needing to rewrite the story. Stop needing it to end in forever in order for it to have mattered. Stop needing it to be perfect in order to be pivotal. You can say, I loved them, I changed because of them, and I release them now. That's a full circle moment. That is emotional maturity. That's self-trust, dude. And maybe you find someone who does all of those things, and they do stay. And you stay, and it turns into forever. Remind yourself that you needed things to end somewhere else in order to be able to find them. But most importantly, in order to be able to find you. I am a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And making your heart feel cold for the fact that something ended and you weren't ready for it to doesn't allow you to feel the forgiveness you deserve. It's okay if things didn't work the way we wanted them to. That doesn't mean they weren't still important. And important for a lot of different reasons. Everybody's story is different. It doesn't have to look the same. It didn't have to always be pretty. As I said, maybe it showed you that you settled. Maybe it showed you that you were too closed off and you want to be different. It's okay to recognize that without having to tear yourself down about it either. Before I end this, and I know this one isn't super long and they aren't always, I just want to offer you a few questions. Not to judge yourself, but to gently reflect. What am I still holding on to that no longer fits who I'm becoming? What did this connection or that season teach me that I couldn't have learned any other way? And can I honor it and also let it go? And maybe just ask yourself, did it have to last forever in order to mean something? Thank you for spending time with me. This was a soft one, but a necessary one. I hope it gave you permission to feel whatever comes up and to know that not all goodbyes are sad. Some are sacred. Some are soul expanding, and some are the beginning of something better aligned. Thank you guys for always listening. Don't forget, if you're on Discord, the Mood Garden is waiting for you. And I realize because I post this in so many different places, I never talk about where. But you can listen to this on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on RSS, on YouTube. And of course, if this episode landed, share it with someone else who needs to hear it. I will see you next time. And until then, don't be afraid to let go of what taught you. You're not leaving it behind. You're just carrying the lesson instead of the weight. Bye, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to Mild Moodcast. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. If you have any burning questions or topics you'd like me to cover, don't hesitate to reach out. You can find me on YouTube at Mild Moodcast and Instagram at Mild Mood Therapy. Let's keep the conversation going and continue to explore the wonderful world of mental health together. Until next time, stay curious and keep smiling.